We're learning to edit and recraft our draft recounts to ensure that the work that we share is our best written effort. To start off, we're going to revisit the Ashurst matrix and specifically the writing processes, just to remind ourselves of what the expectations are for us as writers at level 4. So specifically, the part of this document that we're interested in today is the section that starts here and goes down to around about here. So let's just take a look at what it asks us to be doing. Revising and recrafting our writing independently. That means that we're doing it not just because we're told to, but because we recognise that our work will benefit from inserting, in other words, adding in extra detail where it's needed to clarify or paint a richer picture. Equally important is crossing out unnecessary parts. It's very, very easy to lose the interest of our readers if we include a lot of detail that really doesn't add to the message at all. Making sure that our writing meets the needs or meets the purpose that was set and engages, in other words, hooks in the audience. Then we have a check for grammar, spelling and punctuation. Making sure that you seek feedback from different sources and action feedback if it is in the interests of a better piece of writing. And similarly, you will boost your understanding of good writing if you are able to give specific, knowledgeable feedback as well to others about what they have written. So with this reminder in our heads, we're going to look now at a piece of writing and see how the edit and recraft process might look. The following is a piece of writing written by a young lad who recounts his experiences in the bush on a hunting trip with his dad. The very first thing that we're going to do as we go through the edit and revise process is simply read it through, checking to see how it sounds. In the weekend, I went hunting with my dad in the bush. It took us a long time to get there, and I was really tired when we got there. After tea, I finally got into my sleeping bag and tried to go to sleep. I was nearly asleep when I heard something scary in the trees nearby. I didn't know what it was. I jumped out of my sleeping bag really fast and went over to Dad, who was already asleep, and said, "Dad, what is that noise?" So reading it through, I think to myself, okay, I've done some things quite well. I've talked about who was involved, where we were, what we were doing, maybe a little bit about why, and who the main people are in my recount, so that's good. I ask myself, okay, the way I've written this, is it going to hook my readers, and are they really going to be interested, or do I need to do a better job about painting a picture of what was going on for them, so that they don't lose interest and stop reading? Have I spelt things correctly? There are definitely some little spellings in there that I'm not too sure about, so I'll have to have a think about those. Have I written things in the most logical sequence? Have I hooked my readers in right from the start? And where I'm doing some speaking, I'm pretty certain that there should be some special speech punctuation that is needed there. So these are some of the things that we need to think about as writers, and now we're going to set about seeing what we can do with this piece of writing to make it better. So one of the things that I think about straight away is, are my descriptions really very interesting? You know, there are some places for example, and I'm not necessarily going to do this in the best order, but there's one place where I'm talking about after tea I finally got into my sleeping bag. Got is a really tame, lame sort of word, and I'm thinking that I can find a much better verb that will describe my actions. And so I'm going to replace got with snuggled. I snuggled down into my sleeping bag and tried to go to sleep. I was nearly asleep. I don't particularly like that little bit because I'm sure that I can do a better job of showing that I was nearly asleep rather than just telling you that I was nearly asleep. So I'm going to replace that section with my eyelids became more and more heavy. So that shows that I'm drifting off to sleep, and in fact I could say that, and I was almost drifting off, which we usually know means we're going to sleep, when I heard something scary in the trees nearby. Scary, a bit limp. Okay, so let's see what we can do with that. I rather think that the words a devilish noise paint a pretty rich picture, so I'm going to change that to when I heard a devilish noise in the trees nearby, and I'm adding in shattering the peace. I didn't know what it was. Not altogether sure that I'm going to keep that little bit in there because I think we can sort of infer that that's the case. Now, this word jumped. Once again, I think I can paint a lot richer picture than that, and I'm going to say I leapt from my sleeping bag really fast. Don't need that bit anymore because when we leap we generally do something really fast anyway. So, and rushed instead of went over. Went over sounds a wee bit casual, doesn't it? Rushed to my dad, who was sound asleep, and you can see there that there's an underlining that tells me that that was wrong anyway. This is why I don't rush in to get rid of all the spelling mistakes, because sometimes we don't have them in our final draft anyway. Who was sound asleep. Okay, and said, Dad, what is that noise? Sounds a wee bit lame once again, and so I'm going to change that so that it's some dialogue. Dad, I said, well, I cried, shaking him. Pretty rough writing here, sorry. Urgently. Full stop. And then some more speaking from me. What is that noise? And if you've heard possums rasping away in the bush, you know exactly how this young person is thinking. What is that noise? If you're not expecting it, it is the most surprising, scary noise out. Finally, I'm going to look for spelling mistakes and use a dictionary to fix those up. It took us a long 2 words time to get there, and I was really, not really as in not very often, I was really tired when we got there. After tea, oh, here's this horrible lowercase I that I need to correct in a couple of places actually. Here's another one here. Okay, I think that's probably as much scrawl over my initial draft as I dare to put without confusing you all, but hopefully that has given you an idea of some of the considerations that you need to have in your head as you look at your piece of writing with careful and critical eyes to make sure that you don't, or that you express yourself in the best possible way for your readers.